Most of my cups begin like this. Just a ball of clay, shaped slowly through pinching. Out of all the ways I work with ceramics, hand building has always been my favorite. It feels slower, more personal, like you are actually building something with your hands instead of just forming it. For this set, I was making Totoro inspired cups. I have always loved my neighbor Totoro. It's one of those films that feels like comfort, quiet, and somehow nostalgic even if you did not grow up in the same world. So I wanted to turn that feeling into something physical, something that you could actually hold on to. So I started with cups. Once the base forms were done, I moved on to the characters. And this is where the set really starts to come alive. I make each Totoro separately, one by one, and I don't try to make them identical. Some end up bigger, some smaller, some slightly different in expression. Nothing is perfectly repeated, and I think that's what makes it feel alive. Later, each Totoro will be placed inside the cups, right at the bottom. So when you look into the mug or when you finish your drink, there's this little character quietly waiting at the end, like it's been there the whole time. To build each one, I use scoring and slipping method, scratching the surface, adding liquid clay and pressing the pieces together so they bond properly. And because these are small detail forms, I often reinforce the joints with a thin coil of clay as well. It takes more time, but it makes each piece more secure for firing. And at this stage, I usually make more pieces than I need. Not everything survives in ceramics. Some crack while drying, some don't make it through firing, so I always give myself extra chances. Next, I move on to making the handles. For this, I just roll out a simple coil of clay and slowly shape it into form. Nothing too complicated, and like everything else in ceramics, I always make a few extra, just in case something breaks later on. Once everything was assembled, I left the pieces to dry. Later in the evening, I brought everything back in the studio, and this is when I start trimming. It's a quiet step, but an important one. This is where the cup starts to feel lighter, more refined, and a bit more intentional in shape. After that, I end the day here and come back the next day to continue with the next stage. Honestly, I used to have a very complicated relationship with feet in the cup. I generally prefer cups without feet because mine would always come out uneven or not sit flat or just feel slightly off in a way that bothered me. So for a long time, I just avoided making them. But over the years, after making so many pieces, I have slowly gotten better at it. I think when you have made enough ceramics, your hands just remember things without you thinking too much. And now I actually prefer cups with feet. They make the piece feel more stable, more intentional. And I guess that's just the part of learning anything in ceramics. You stop avoiding the things you used to struggle with and just work through them. While I was doing this, I was working on all 4 cups at the same time. Just repeating the same steps. Scoring, slipping, adjusting, pressing everything into shape. And there is something very grounding about doing the same motion over and over again. After that, I moved on to the handles. And if I'm being honest, handles are probably my least favorite part of making cups. They are also the most unpredictable. Even when everything else is perfect, handles are usually the first place where cracks show up later. So I tend to be overly careful with them. Slow attachment, careful shaping, making sure everything is blended properly so there will be no weak points. I usually roll out a coil, attach it slowly and then smooth everything into the cup surface until it feels seamless. It's a small detail, but it changes everything about how the cup feels in your hands. By this point, I had finished all 4 cups I was originally working on, but I actually made a few extra off camera, just in case. That's something I have always learned to do with ceramics. And before moving on, I realized I had also rolled out a slab earlier and completely forgotten to film the full process. Next comes one of my favorite parts of the process, underglazing. For this set, I'm using my box of underglazes from Pottery. I have talked about them before, but I genuinely love these underglazes. Back when I was first starting out ceramics, I was constantly experimenting with different materials and trying to figure out what worked with the clay I use. Since my clay is locally sourced, not every underglaze behaves the same way after firing. Some colors would fade, some would change completely, and others just did not give me the results I was hoping for. Passler was actually the first brand that worked consistently for me. The colors were vibrant, easy to apply, and most importantly, they stayed true after firing. So I just kept coming back to them. At first, I used to sketch everything out in pencil before painting, very careful outlines, very planned, but over time I have started trusting my hands more. Now I often go straight with color, just letting the shapes come together naturally. For more detailed areas, I still sometimes sketch lightly with pencil, especially when I'm working with multiple characters or smaller facial details. And when it comes to underglaze, I usually do 2 coats. That's enough to get a solid, opaque finish without overloading the surface. Sometimes 3 coats depending on the color, but mostly 2 works best for me. And I usually thin it slightly with water when needed depending on how it's applying. After this point, I stopped overthinking and just let the process take over. From here on, it was a mix of color, intuition, and quiet repetition.
The sun is shining bright Like a colorful aurora, it paints the world in hues of orange and white and more. I'm gonna start packing my bag, I'm leaving all worries behind. Let's go, I need to get my own summer style back. The breeze is playing soft through the palm trees loft. Seen it whisper secrets of each land. The sound of the waves lapping on the beach is like a pleasant melody. Soothe my heart's troubles. Windows down with the wind in my hair, I feel so free. Oh, it's the smell of summer. My summer trip, take me away, all worries, to a place where my heart can play. Under the stars, by the ocean shore, by the vast grasslands. Oh, it's the smell of summer. I find a hidden cove where the dolphins rove. I watch them dance in the ocean's cove. I build a sandcastle high, I touch the summer sky. I sit around a fire, share stories that will never tire. I found the feeling